Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Rivalz Race Chat. Seems like it was a year ago since we've been on.
But
It wasn't that good. Yeah, I was waiting for you to help me out there.
yeah.
Welcome back. Adam got vacation. I got Christmas. So, as most of you did. So, how was it, buddy? Not that we really care because we're all jealous, but tell us how your vacation went briefly.
Here's the thing. What Angie and I are so lucky because our kids, Devin being 28 years old, Connor being 18, will still come on vacation with us. The challenge is, Clint, they drink like fish, and to thank them for coming with us, we try to keep up, and it gets ugly. So
Yeah.
a good
I've
time
seen
was had, but
we've been good buds for 25 plus years. I've seen you tip beers maybe 10 times in all those years.
yeah, I'd say it's about
Now,
right. With all the Syracuse dirt weeks, there's probably one night out of. I just
now
don't.
but 7 of those times Adam was rip roaring smashed. Yeah, he doesn't know social, but he knows let's party. But it comes few and far between. But happy New Year to everybody. Um, you know, we for me mentally, this is kind of the turning the page. I know a lot of the race teams kind of feel that same way. Just kind of get to Christmas and New Year's, and now today was first day. Buckle down, back at it, trying to hammer out schedules and start the sponsorship chase from all our entities. But it feels good
There's
to turn the page.
benchmarks. There's
Yeah,
benchmarks, Clinton, and Christmas and New Year's is one of them. Chili Bowl might be one of them if you're a dirt racer. The Daytona 500, you know what I mean? You go through these moments through the off season. The off season in Canada is so damn long, but all of those different points mean something different to every racer. That's when some of them pull the cover off their race car and start working. Some of them are already finished everything they want to do for next year. They're just tidying up their race shops. I really liked Ray Morneau Racing posted a picture of the new build that they're working on. Did you see it?
I caught it, but I might not have caught the inside joke.
It's just one length of tubing. We,
Oh, okay.
we wanted to show you the progress of our current build. Just one length of tube.
Yeah, I think we used to have different gaps and milestones, and I don't know if the dates have shifted. It seemed like a lot of the tracks now are trying to be ready for PRI, where a lot of us didn't care until Motorama around here. So that's a shift in about 4 months where everybody's trying to push things and race things out. And if you miss PRI, then you're trying to get it out at Christmas and New Year's. And with the crate guys, I'm like, guys, we're in no rush. We got great news coming. Like, we don't need to push this. Just let's do it right in a couple weeks and be proper. We have great things coming down that pipe. Um,
Reason
so
being,
many.
and explain it. The reason being, you don't ever want to put out a schedule and then change it.
Oh yeah,
Like when
and we've had a few examples of that actually, Adam, where we were gonna put it out, and then, for example, the Can-Am schedule came out the other day. I'm like, well, that ain't really what I thought we were going with. We can adapt to it, but we'll work it out. But that's where I'm all right being one of the last guys with the schedule. I mean, we have some Ush Weekend racers that are on our ass about it. Look, the framework's the same. We're going to start May 2-4. We're going to end at the Nationals. You're going to have a week or two off in the middle there for the powwow and the NASCAR event. Like, what more do you need to know? There'll be a couple Fridays when you'll be on or off, depending on your division. But speaking of Chili Bowl, which is around the corner, Tulsa Shootout just wrapped up. We have Scotty Cook coming on. Now, if you've been a Racing Boys viewer for up until I think it was 2 years ago. He was telling me today they sold it to Flow. So, he's no longer a part of that broadcast, but for many, many years, Scotty Cook was a part of that broadcast. So, he's gonna join us here, talk about that. They're still gonna have a bit of a pre-race show surrounding the Chili Bowl this year, and
Mhm.
how I got in touch with him is Stiers asked me to get in touch with him today. They're gonna support that pre-race show a bit from the GSR Osh Weekend Speedway side, as Glenn has a fairly big presence. The Chili Bowl got talking to guys today. Why don't you come on and chat with us tonight? So we expect him to be joining us here shortly. Joe Chisholm also made a post about sponsorship hunting and why most of you are doing it horribly. And we're going to invite Joe on to talk about that and see what he has to say and bring up. He did bring up some good points. And I think there's a lot of things that we can discuss there quickly. I mean, we still have the whole football situation from last night, which I don't know how much we need to dig into it. But from us, I mean, I mean, you and I talked about who hasn't been talking about it for the last 24 hours. So we may
This might be
touch.
something. Oh, and I mean, I don't know if Scott Cook would mind that or not, but he's been around, Clinton. You know what I mean? It's something I think we do need to talk about it because as soon as things happened last night, we started chatting online. Hey, what if? We have plans in place, and we've been through situations before, and we had a lot to talk about. Like it was one of the more productive conversations that we've had in a while, and I think it is worth noting, folks, and we've mentioned it. What we do is very dangerous, right? And we're fortunate to go year after year after year without having any catastrophic injuries. I mean, Tyler Hendricks might disagree with you with the broken neck that he suffered or some of the other injuries along the way, but we have been very fortunate to not have had a loss of life injury or a situation that dire in a long, long time. But you have to be ready. Clint, you have to be aware that it could happen and you've got to deal with it.
Yeah, I think last night, as you and myself as announcers and Scott Cook coming on here to join us, you can bring him on anytime, Spencer, if he's ready. Um, is it shined a glaring spotlight on how important your on-air talent is to carry those situations. Because I think you and I were most frustrated about the on-air broadcast and the way they were carrying on, and it was just to me that it could have been done in a million different ways. But let's welcome Scott on. Let's talk about racing first, and then we'll jump back into the football. So, Scott Cook, welcome here to the program, Scotty. A lot of us here in Canada would have known you through your Racing Boys coverage of the Chili Bowl and Tulsa Shootout over the years. You're also the tour announcer for the ASCS 360 Tour, and which means you spend a lot of time with the guy we know well, the Hills Boys, Alex Hill, Dylan Westbrook, and all those crews. So good deal that we share those. Welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. How's it going up over the border tonight?
It's going great because of the internet and because of streaming, which you guys have done really well for a long time. We don't have to look outside now, even though there's no snow out there right now. There will be for many months to come, and we're connected to the Great South, where you guys go to Tulsa and stream that, and then there's time for Speed Week. So things are as good in Canada as they are anywhere else in the world, where we can see racing all the time, Scott.
I would love to get up there and finally get to see Canada one of these days. Mr. Miles Hill and Glenn Stiers have been trying to get me to come up there forever, and I know I'll enjoy it once I get up there. But most importantly, you guys keep the snow up there and all that cold. I'm too old for it.
That's fair
For
enough. Scott
sure.
was telling me can't wait to get to Florida. Scott, let's talk about what a crazy week or month it is inside the Tulsa Expo Center with the Tulsa Shootout, and then Chili Bowl coming up. What's the hot story right now? I mean, you got so many things going on. How do you even keep track of those hundreds, literally, of stories going on per week?
Oh, I was going to say all the entrance and drive. I thought you were going to say entrance and drivers.
That's
It's
tough
almost
too.
nearly impossible to keep up with all of them. The Chili Bowl and the Shootout annually are always filled with storylines. Obviously, we're in between the Shootout and the Chili Bowl. We just completed the Shootout. It's always a grind, 15 hours a day for 5 hours straight. An opportunity to recoup before we go down there and get back in the building. But one young rising star for this year's, he hasn't had enough laps yet to prove the talent level, whether he'll be a rising star or not just yet. But as we said, the Shootout always filled with storylines. One storyline that developed this year at the Shootout was one young man from Lake Havasu, Arizona. I believe he's maybe 12, 13 years of age. Young man's name is Brayton Roberts. And Brayton was watching the Flow broadcast last year of the Shootout, had never raced in his life, and thought, man, I so want to do that. Well, he is 1 year removed, proof that if you set your mind to anything, you can do anything in this world and make anything happen. The young man took everything upon himself, and off the bat, he bought a boat for, I think, $5,000. I don't know where he got the capital to buy the $5,000 initially to buy the boat, but he ended up flipping it for $10,000. And so he took the profit from the boat, and then from there he began doing odd jobs all year long down there in Arizona. I believe he worked for a construction company. He also sold used car parts and collectibles. And before fall rolled around, he had enough money to make the operation work and get to his first shootout. Well, he got down there this year, and Flow Racing did an interview with him, and they put it up on YouTube, and it just blew up. And everyone fell in love with this young man. And I got a call from a buddy down there in Phoenix, close to Lake Havasu, who owns a vinyl and graphics shop by the name of Mike White. Beaver Stripes is his business name. And Mike said, man, I have a friend in the building. I want to get some money to this young man to help sponsor him. Well, we were able to arrange that to happen. We got him $500 on behalf of Beaver Stripes. And then my phone lit up a couple of more times with some additional sponsors. So it was a real feel-good story. And again, proof that if you set your mind to anything, you can do anything. Beyond there, the storylines, the shootout truly is an event for all of the rising stars of open wheel racing. And of the 1,500 competitors and entrants, predominantly over 2/3 of those are under the age of 18. So many youngsters. And with that, it makes for the rising stars of open wheel racing to be able to showcase their talents. And for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been notably talking about a couple of drivers in particular, and they ended up being able to take drillers away from the building this year. Young Gavin Bochelle out of Mooresville, North Carolina.
Yep.
I don't believe Gavin is anything more than, I think Gavin's like 14, 13. A remarkably talented young man. He's been burning them up out there at the Millbridge Speedway in a micro, and traveling all over the country as well in his micro, and ended up this season being able to get some seat time in a midget as well. And so with that, he was able to take a driller home. I want to say it was stock non-wing. And then another young man that is truly a rising star of all of open wheel racing out of the state of Indiana, and spent his 2022 behind the wheel of the Clausen Motorsports Driven to Save Lives mount for Mr. Clausen. And that is one young Emerson Axum. Emerson won a restricted driller 2 years ago. And then I don't remember, last year it might have been a stock non-wing that he won. And then on the white flag lap of the open non-wing, he was wheel to wheel at the line with, I believe, my memory is horrible, but I think it was Geoffrey Newell. They touched coming off of turn 4, and Emerson took one of the biggest rides you'd ever want to see in that building, whether it be a midget or a micro, and came just short of winning his second driller last year. Well, this year he came in with guns a-blazing and was able to really showcase his efforts once again. He brought home a driller. Oh my gosh, my memory is awful. I want to say it was in the open.
I don't remember the class, Scott. I don't remember the class, but I remember he called it because the interview he gave after not winning the previous race he was in, he was so pissed off. He basically said, I'm not going to let that happen again. And I thought that was just the coolest thing to see his confidence and then he went out there. And I'm the same with you. The classes run into one another, but I love the stories. And I thought his interview, not in Victory Lane from the one he won, but the one prior to that from the one he lost, I thought, man, that is media gold.
I tell you, that boy, he, along with Gavin Bochelle, fortunately, I've been able to see all of this stuff hands-on for close to 20 years now and been able to pay close attention to young, uprising talent. And those two boys in particular, Emerson Axum, Gavin Bochelle, they're definitely going to be ones that you want to watch in the future. Also, notables, another notable that you want to keep your eye peeled on to be able to showcase his talents, which he's been doing for the last couple of years. Unfortunately, had a hiccup and was deemed a paraplegic after an accident a year or two ago. Is one young Dason Pursley. He had a crack with Keith Kuntz Motorsports, and he got hurt real bad in a midget a couple of years ago. Upon the conclusion of the 2021 season, I believe it was out in Arizona, and so Dason got back behind the wheel of a race car at the end of the beginning of last year, and I was blessed to see him pick up a win at the Lake Ozark Speedway upon after that crash in, I believe, Power Eye competition. Lake Ozark Speedway just down the road from me here in central Missouri. And Dason Pursley, Emerson Axum, Gavin Bochelle, remember those names because they're truly bona fide rising stars of open wheel racing. And oh, by the way, shifting gears into the Chili Bowl and guys that you want to pay your attention to, the Chili Bowl storyline going in. Obviously, the storylines will develop as the event unfolds, as it does every year. But the storyline this year will be once again showcasing young talent. About I don't remember if it's last year or the year before, but I'm sure you guys have heard of a young rising star out of Oklahoma City by the name of Ryan Timms. And Ryan has won in midgets, 360 sprint cars, national tour for the ASCS 410. He went out and won in California. The boy is truly remarkable. Well, for years, there's been an age limit for the Chili Bowl. You have to be 16 years of age. Well, there's been such an influx of young rising talent in all of open wheel racing that there's not even that so many of them wanted to run the Chili Bowl that they decided to raise the bar and change the rule and allow the youngsters to enter the Chili Bowl that are legitimately qualified to run the race. And so that will be the storyline going into this year, such that the influx of young talent that's not even 16 years of age that will be able to make their Chili Bowl debuts. And Kyle Larson won't be there. Christopher Bell won't be there. So it opens up at least a couple of spots for some boys to get into the A main event. And so in a nutshell, I think pay attention to all of the young, talented drivers. We mentioned those boys. Gavin Bochelle will be there. Emerson Axum, Dason Pursley. In fact, Pursley and Axum will be teammates running out of the Reinhold stable. They'll be fun to watch. Ryan Timms, always fun to watch. And I'll guarantee you, I can't guarantee you, but I say that all four of those kids that we just named off, young, full of talent, will stand a bona fide chance to get into the A main for the 39th annual Chili Bowl Nationals. I think just the young rising stars entering this event is what you're going to want to pay attention to this year.
All right, Scotty, we got to move on, man. Thanks for joining us. We'll keep our eye on those drivers, and we'll be talking to you again soon.
I appreciate it. Clinton, I'll be following up with you here with a phone call or two, and following up with some graphics that we want to get as well. And so I just appreciate you guys having me on, and stay warm up there in on the res. Are you guys on the res?
No.
We're
Thanks, man.
close.
No, not close. Just close enough, huh?
Yeah.
Just close enough. One big
Well,
happy
be well.
family. Thanks so much, Scott.
Indeed. Thanks for having me on. We'll see you guys soon.
So Scott Cook, we know him many years as the voice of the Chili Bowl from the coverage, and he'll be doing some other shows around there this year as well. So, Adam, wow, we could have gone for hours there. So much talk about
I didn't.
the Chili
It
Bowl.
was unwise to get him wound up about tragedy during an event.
So, where do you want to go from here? We have so much stuff to talk about. We should probably just knock some stuff off that's quick and easy if we can. How about Blake Bomberry Sr.? You got photos from that, Spencer? Blake Bomberry Sr. had a fire while you were away at him. Crazy. The only thing he went back for was his trophies, which is wild. After years living in the house, it was his racing pictures and his trophies. Just shows how much some of the folks out there are dedicated to what they've been able to accomplish here in the years. Moving on, Trayton Lapsevich, he won the D-Box E-Series, Adam. iRacing International representing the NASCAR Pinty Series against a lot of the other international factions of NASCAR. Quickly, what does that mean for the sport, Trayton, and iRacing in general?
Tell you what I think it means for Trayton, Clinton. No matter what they do, the Lapseviches, and someone will dislike what I'm about to say, they pay to play. Caden Lapsevich won the Pinty's championship. They couldn't get a deal the next year. They paid to play. They pulled back. They quit racing. No matter what they do, whether it's late models or Pinty, sure, there's deals where other people help pay the bills, but it's pay to play. This iRacing is different, because I can almost promise you Trayton didn't pay his own way to Germany to go compete in an esports event. It is a game changer to where he can make money with his talent similar to what a hockey player would or a football player would. It's a door opening to a different way of looking at our industry where hopefully people are going to get rewarded for their skill level. And Trayton has put in thousands of hours racing on a simulator. So he has paid his dues. He earns the accolades. He earns the opportunity. So I'm thrilled for him.
Yeah, I think it's going to open a lot more doors for him too. So congratulations, Trayton. Been on this show multiple times. Before we get to Joe, a couple other quick things just to knock off the list. Cool Kids, one of the big supporters at Oshwegan Speedway, title sponsor of the 360s, did an amazing bike giveaway over Christmas, and we just want to make sure they got acknowledged for that. Pretty much gave away all these bikes. All you had to do was just come on down to Cool Kids on this set time and date with your child and pick up whatever bike they wanted. So, big kudos to everybody down there, the Bomberries, Vic, Diane, everybody, your whole staff. Super cool. You sport racing, but even better, you do some great stuff for the community. So want to make sure they got noticed for that, and a huge lineup. And I don't think anybody went away sad that day. Racing in the past. Let's look at this quickly, Adam. Back in the day, if you're going to Indy, you used to load your car into a rail car. I thought this was a super cool picture. This is some historical group I got on Facebook where they recolor old photos. Just look at this, man. Can you imagine loading that into a rail car to head off to Indy for a month or two to try and go for the Indy 500? I just thought that was a cool historical photo, and shows you, how cool things used to be back in the day.
Yeah, I saw the same post. I've been going down rabbit holes lately reading different stuff. I was going to send you something this afternoon. I thought, we've got too much to talk about. But it was Vince McMahon talking about shows on TV. 2 hours is too much, but 1 hour is not enough to tell a story. If you do 90 minutes, you can do 2 shows a week, tell 2 good stories, and have it's just brilliant the way he breaks everything down and thinks it through. And I could dig into reading stuff like that forever.
Let's bring Joe Chisholm on, and we'll talk about 2 quick topics. One was a post that was posted this week. Welcome, Joe. The post was, where was it, Spencer? It's here on my list. It was people who do well in racing. It was posted by Kelly Jones. There's people who do well in racing don't do other things. The guys who win the most in racing don't have other hobbies. Most don't live in a massive home. They don't drive new vehicles. They don't go on any other vacations besides racing ones. And they don't have big friends to count. And they don't have much time to do anything but work on the race car, hang with family a few hours a week, and go racing. If you want to be that guy who wins a lot, understand it comes with cost. And most of you don't like to pay that cost. That's a pretty cutting deal, Adam. And you think about all the guys we know that are successful. And Joe, you can jump in on this too. Welcome to the show. You know, it's very true, isn't it, Joe? The guys who do it well are the ones who are very dedicated to it.
Yeah, there's, even at the top level of the sport, and it doesn't matter if it's the Cup Series or Indy cars, the people who win are racers. And just because you drive a race car doesn't mean you're a racer. Just because you're a crew chief doesn't mean you're a racer. Racers live the lifestyle, right? And the lifestyle is, no matter what it takes, you get the car to victory lane on Saturday or on Sunday, and you try everything to do that, right? I think that, every racer, whether it be Junior Hanley or Bill Zardo or Steve Kinzer or Jeff Gordon would say the exact same thing. The thing that, about that post that strikes me, and I seen that last week, that strikes me about it is that it's, in today's world, it's easier than in yesteryear's world. Just because you have so many tools at your disposal to build a brand that is lucrative for sponsors, that a lot of people don't understand how to start that or how to go about it. And in today's era of racing, there's a tremendous amount of money out there to be had if you can provide value enough to get it. Nobody's going to hand you a check anymore and just say, I want to go win the Daytona 500. They're going to say, what are you going to do for me for this amount of money? And that's
so. I'm going to disagree with you, Joe, and not disagree, but the money's not there to be had; it's there to be earned. And I think Absolutely. That's your point. Is it's out there. You just can't show up with your hand out and put a name on a card. You have to understand what it is you can provide of value to earn that money that is out there. There are companies that have to spend these dollars. So let's use that as a segue to talk about, I know you posted about Ridgeline Oil, I believe, was the example.
No, hold on. First off, I want to touch on a couple of things here. Joe, what you said, not every driver's a racer, I think same thing goes for media. Not every announcer out there are media. Some guys are media and some guys are born racers, and I think that goes through a lot of the guys we've dealt with over the years and their attitudes too. But the other thing I want to say is, Joe, last time you're on this program, you went on top secret double probation from NASCAR Canada. So make sure you don't say anything to get yourself in trouble here. Has that expired now? Where do we stand with that? Should we even talk about it? Like, I don't know if anybody knew it, but we got you in a lot of shit.
Nobody knew it. There was never a press release. I don't even think it actually happened. I asked at the start finish line at Delaware Speedway whether it was over or not, and I just got a shrug of the shoulders. So I don't know. It might be a lifetime. It might be a lifetime deal. You never know.
Yeah. Well,
but you know what? I'll never be shy about speaking my mind about the sport, and whether I'm right or wrong or what have you. I think that everybody in the sport, as long as you're saying something that is going to, better the sport or not hinder the sport, then have at it. Say what you want. That's kind of my motto.
Let's look at Joe's post, Adam. This is what triggered everything. This got everybody buzzing. It was shared quite a bit, commented quite a bit. Joe, do you want to read it? Or do you want me to read it? It says, Joe says, I've seen 5 of these posts last week looking for sponsors for this coming season. It doesn't work. It devalues your offering, and it also devalues the sport. It's not professional. Most importantly, it's annoying. When it's a roofing company, 3 employees, or a metal working shop that has 200 employees, or an international consumer brand with millions in sales, they're all looking for the same thing throughout their marketing money. Number 1, minimum of 3-to-1 return on investment. Number 2, the most amount of positive exposure possible. And number 3, to be associated with partners who fit their company and customers' identities. Number 5, execute a plan to be agreed upon. And 5, be memorable and put thought into it. Approach the company, invest in your programs, and be present with sponsors, and they will be available. So, Joe, what was the response to this initially?
Initially, initially and all the way through, I think a lot of people agreed with me that were involved in the sponsorship space to begin with. There were definitely some comments on there from people who might be the people who post looking for sponsors for next year, or looking to take that approach, and not necessarily understanding what sponsorship is, at the end of the day. Sponsorship to me is my passion within the sport. I think spotting is what gets me up every morning. I love spotting more than anything, but there isn't a spotter in the Cup Series or IndyCar Series that makes a living off spotting. They have a day job too, and my focus was to get into marketing and zero in on that and go down that rabbit hole. So I wanted to do the sales and marketing through the week and then spot for a fast car on the weekend, and that would be my lifetime goal. So when I look at the response, there's probably about 70% of people saying, hey, I agree with this is definitely something that we've noticed as well. Not a whole lot of input though, just people saying they agree, and then the input actually came from the people who disagreed, or said that this worked, right? So, and here's why. So there, it was about 70% positive, 30% negative, on the post itself.
I don't think I've ever had a 70% approval rate, Joe, so that's pretty good.
Hey, that's pretty good, right? Yeah.
I think the hardest part with any type of sales, as Adam, is just getting to the decision maker. If you can get to the decision maker and you can be passionate in front of them, you got a pretty good shot. If you can't get to the one who's signing the checks or the one who actually has that authority, you're kind of spinning your wheels. But, I'll give you a couple pointers that I've always tried to tell the young up and coming guys who come to us and ask for it. We've been in this deal long enough that we have built a relationships, or like you say, a brand where we can go after some corporate deals. We're able to follow through on those deals and deliver on our promises to be able to welcome more deals, right? And it all, it all kind of baits the other one. You hear me say a lot of thing about trade bait. For example, if we can put a Pinty's commercial out there alongside a Chevrolet commercial and then stick someone in the middle, well, that middle business getting great value there with that association to those national brands. But here's my points. First off, stop asking for cash. In this day and age, nobody wants to give out cash to somebody they barely know, that don't know what your habits are if you're going to buy beer or Leaf tickets or whatever. Ask them for tangible things that your race team needs. Find out what it costs for 4 pit passes at your speedway and make a deal with a business to write the check to the speedway and buy those passes for you. Find out what your weekly costs are. How much does it cost to fuel your race car? How much does it cost to feed your team? Most local pizza places, you will get them to feed the whole crew for free on race day if you drive by with the race car and pick this stuff up. I mean, these are deals that you can make very simple. But what you're doing here is you're honing your craft. You're learning how to sharpen that knife and ask for them and be rejected. And okay, this didn't work, that did work. But that's my best advice to the smaller teams out there. Start with not asking for money, asking for, hey, will you buy me tires? Would you buy me this? Would you buy me that? And come with a list of what your needs are. And, someone like me, and I only say that me because Oshwegan Speedway and Glenn Stiers Racing get approached from every entity for money. So I'm the no guy on many times. So you want to catch my attention, come at me with something that doesn't just say, hey, can I have a bunch of money? Or hey, can I drive those sprint cars? Come with a plan, and we're into it. Go, Adam.
Can I fight with you?
Yeah.
Because in principle, I enjoyed everything you just said, but in principle, I disagree with all of it. Because
Okay.
In a true marketing relationship, the person writing you the check doesn't give 2 shits what your tires cost or what your pit back. I get what you're saying, and it's a great deal for when you're not trying to sell value, when you're just trying to get a feel-good deal. Someone knows you, it's going to spend $500. From
I'm
a
talking to the
marketing
mini stock
standpoint,
teams here to figure it
hey,
out.
listen. You had your chance. Now I'm going to disagree with you, blow it apart, side with Joe, and have a good night.
Giver.
From a marketing standpoint, and Dusty DeBoer makes a great comment. I want to kind of answer his comment while I'm making this point. It doesn't matter how many partners you have, and it doesn't matter how much money they give you. All that matters is the person giving that money feels as though they're getting what they wanted out of the relationship. whether it's $1 million package or whether it's a $200 package. So it's up. So to Dusty's question, he says, I wonder if Joe thinks there's such thing as too many sponsors on a car. If there is a point where you dilute the value being provided. That value, Dusty, is up to you and the people you talk to. And it's up to Joe and the race teams or organizations that he works for and the businesses that they deal with. Every sponsor deal on every track or every car is completely different. If there was a simple handbook, we'd all be good at it. So I think I made my point.
And the networking portion too, just to jump in there, the networking portion too. You look at it, if there's a gentleman or a lady that is a local business person in their hometown, and they do work for a lot of people, or they're involved in whatever it might be in the local community that is outside of racing, and they have a lot of contacts within the business world, they're going to attract more sponsorship because they're going to be able to get in front of more of those people. But to his point, to Dusty's point, it is the most frustrating thing to me when I hear somebody look across the pit area and say, you know why I can't get sponsors? Because he's got 80 of them and he gives them away for $50 a piece. Give yours away. I mean, do whatever you need to do to find your niche. There's a local competitor to Sauble Speedway here, and I'm not going to list any names, but a local competitor gave away a bunch to charity. And I actually heard negative, comments about how many sponsors he acquired and how he gave money away to a charity. And, it definitely astounds me. There's a lot of people that are looking over their shoulder and saying, I wish I had this. I wish I had that. But really, and I listed a bunch of names at the bottom of that post. If you can go on and take a look at that, in one of the comments I believe it was to Tom Eckensweiler. I listed a bunch of names in there of guys that are really good at it. And that's just in the Ontario asphalt world. Teams that are really good at finding marketing dollars. And whether it be, to your point, Clinton, getting a barrel of fuel from a construction company that is not trying to sell more gravel. He just wants to support his buddy, put his helmet on the weekends. Or to the guy who's trying to sell more siding and needs to be in front of more people, so he needs to build a brand. I think there's value to both of them. And when you look at the list of names that I posted, there are 75, there are 100 more names than that. Just when you walk through the back gate at Sunset Speedway, Sauble Speedway, Ohsweken Speedway, there's a list of names that are good. Find the car with a lot of stickers on it. Ask a few questions and how they went about doing it. And it's not rocket science. It's about building yourself up to be memorable and building yourself up and having a message that is positive enough that people can resonate with. And once you can do that, if you resonate with kids, market to kids companies. If you market to, the hard rock grunge era, market to those types of companies. Market to Harley Davidson and those style of companies.
Great points.
Find your niche. Find your niche. And then once you have your niche, it's not hard to speak their language, right? You're not going in and speaking, size and fit charts to a clothing company. You're going in and speaking about tools, or you're going in and speaking about lubricants, or whatever it might be. And it's stay in your lane, find those niches, and I think that there's value to both sides. And definitely it's cheaper for a company to buy you 4 tires than it is to give you the same amount of liquid cash to buy those 4 tires. So that's an intriguing point as well. So once you build those relationships, you can come up with those ideas to help better your program.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's all about customer experience. The biggest thing you want to start building is something to get the company out with their 40 people. I mean, they're into that these days way more than they are in just sticking a sticker on your car, right? You got to create that customer
100%.
experience, or the parts experience. I mean, Luke from APC will be the first one to tell you they don't race APC because they love racing, which they do. They race APC because he can bring a lot of their customers in the garages out to the events and get them out there. And it becomes a marketing event in that sense more than when we think marketing event, that just most people think just means you're gonna throw your logos on it, and that is not a marketing event. That's just wallpaper.
Yeah.
Joe,
Hospitality.
yeah, hospitality events, those types of things. Joe, what's going on with your season? What do you know about 2023 upcoming? I mean, the NASCAR Pinty Series has not been officially announced here. We've talked about it. NASCAR Week at Oshweek will be the same Monday and Tuesday, the 14th and 15th. But
Yep.
other than that, we haven't heard much. What do you know?
Yeah, it's the same deal. It's actually kind of interesting. There's a bunch of events that we already kind of know because the tracks or the series have kind of announced, not the series, the tracks have announced their schedule, and you can see where it is on the schedule. That being said, there are still some balls up in the air, which surprised me. I figured we would have seen it before Christmas time. But the thing that kind of is surprising to me is that usually there's a back channel where you can kind of hear what's going on and you can kind of tell what's happening. You're not talking about it on here. You're not talking about it on RTR. You're talking about it on, in the garage. I haven't heard any of that stuff. So maybe that's
Joe,
somebody secret.
Somebody trimmed the grapevine. Right? In the last year, the grapevine's been snipped and snipped and snipped, and it's going to take a while to grow back. But right, like where do you listen? Where do you put your ear to? Because now Tony Spiteri is the head of NASCAR in Canada, and does Alan Boynton work on this? Like, there's so many moving parts, and we don't know who's connected to what. I've heard all sorts of things. If everything came true that I've heard, we'd have a 30 race schedule.
Yeah, exactly, and we'd be doing 500 lap races everywhere.
Yeah, 100%. And we're not. We're not going to have that. It's probably going to look very similar, but I've never seen the system, the gossip system, as broken as it has been this offseason. And that might be a great thing.
I would second that as well, though, even into the late model series. There's a tremendous amount of buzz, in on the East Coast. When you look at the new sanctioning of a super late model series out there, you look out west, and they're making changes to a bunch of the speedways out there. Some are falling off the map, some are making changes, but nobody's coming out and saying this is what's happening. So and same with APC. There's a bunch of names. I unfortunately just seen Connor James's post that he's going to be falling off from full-time competition. But there's a bunch of names that have either not committed to being back or have committed to being back at different capacities. But then there's also names that we know that are jumping into the series, whether it be from local Saturday night stuff or jumping back into the series. And we haven't seen or heard those releases either. So it has been a very unique offseason. I think the winter storm might have shook some people up a little bit. And I think that when we get down to Motorama, I think that the news is going to start flying and we're going to have some fun again.
Joe, my question for you is, you rode alongside us both the series all year long. We got to see a lot of each other. For those fans who maybe aren't paying as close attention as the three of us are to the NASCAR Pinty Series, the APC Late Model Series, rate the health or the strength of those series right now, in your opinion.
Very strong, both of them. I think the pandemic surprised a lot of people. There was a handful of people that had plans on either stepping into the Pinty Series the year of the pandemic or the year after the pandemic at small capacities. Then we're able to kind of stash away some capital and get out there and kind of influx the car count a little bit. I think that is that a permanent thing? I don't know. I would say no to that. I think that the health is very stable though with both of them, and I really like the fact that Pinty stepped up and signed an extension. I think that is a huge deal, and that adds a lot of stability for these people to, the race teams to take a step and invest. And as well, you're seeing a few of the partners do the same thing. You heard WeatherTech step back up with LP. You heard, a bunch of the partners that are in the series, take a step forward and say, look, this is a multi-year deal. So I think that, we're going to have full fields in APC. I don't think that that's going to be a hard thing to achieve at every racetrack next year. I think it was very much needed to go to the longer races for a handful of them, to change it up a little bit. These cars are definitely built to do 250, 300 laps. So why not make it happen? You know? And not that they're going to do 250 or 300, but you know, there's a couple of 200s and a couple of 150s in there. So just longer events. And I think that, you know, with everything that they provide a tremendous value to a partner. You know, on the race car, and you're seeing corporate partnerships on the racetrack and off the racetrack come into the series. And that is attractive. You know, you look at not necessarily Budweiser and, you know, A-list brands. You're not seeing the Googles of the world. You're not seeing the blue chips of the world, for the most part, being involved in APC or even NASCAR Canada for that matter. A handful of them on the NASCAR Canadian tires, they're the NASCAR Pinty Series side. But I would say the blue chips on the provincial or regional sides are here and they're playing. You know, construction companies and roofing companies and, you know, unions and those types of things, they're playing ball. And they're not just spending
companies that are coming off. So, sorry to cut you off, Joe, but I want to continue. Roofing companies, construction companies, there are companies that are coming off record years. So let anyone talk to you about recessions who wants to, but people spent a shit ton of money on their homes, on their properties over the last few years. So there are companies out there that are doing great, and hopefully our racers get to reap those benefits.
Adam, I got one for you. So Lucas Strawman says here, y'all are the biggest fans of the Pinty series I can find. We are a bit home timers. You know, we all are involved in the series and do want to see the best of it. What would be the most beneficial thing for growth of this series? Adam first, and then over to Joe.
I know it's going to sound like we're homers, but Tony Spiteri. Leadership. Strong leadership from the top, someone who is connected to the corporate world of Canada, someone who has created some of the best made-for-television sports in the last 5-10 years with the Pinty's Grand Slam of curling. I think that is the key. That strong leadership at the top, giving people confidence to invest in equipment, because it is a huge amount of money and resources that have to be invested to go racing. And I think that is going to be the focal point. That's going to be what this is all built around, is leadership and strong corporate connections making things happen.
Joe?
Yeah, I would agree on the Tony Spiteri part and the leadership part. And I hope that one of the things that transpire from the leadership portion is bridging the gap, so to speak, on a closing the step on the ladder system. Right now, the step from you know, super stock to late model is not that big of a step. It's a big step, but it's not that big of a step. Stepping from Thunder stocks to 410 sprints, or not 410 sprints, but to crate sprints is not that big of a jump. You know, stepping up to 360 is, right? Like, if you want to jump from a Thunder stock to a 360, that's a big gap. But if you want to jump from any level that we're talking about on that side to the Pinty series, it's too big of a gap. And
I think the biggest problem, Joe, for the last, since J.R. Fitzpatrick, the biggest problem is nobody in English-speaking Canada cared to make that jump. Like, there were a few people, but in Quebec, they're rabid. And go ahead, Clint. But in Quebec, you've got that. They want it. That's where they want to be, because that's where Tagliani is. That's where Ranger is. Don't have that in English-speaking Canada, but I think it's coming. Sorry, Clint. I keep jumping in.
No, it's all good. It comes back, in my opinion, is right what Joe was saying. And, you know, the reason we created the crate sprints was we had the Grand Canyon of Valley between two divisions there at Oshweekend. But back to the NPS, I have been saying for years, it's too damn expensive. These cars shouldn't be costing $150,000, $200,000. We need to get it back to 80, 90 grand that someone can aspire to do it. None of these kids in Ontario aspire to do it because unless your parents are billionaires, you're never going to waste that kind of money on this type of racing. You know, the national coverage is good, but when you add the travel in there, you know, the beauty of the car is its antiquated technology. The price should
Yeah.
reflect that. You know what I mean? And Tony's heard
Yeah.
me bitch about this for a long time, and that's why I don't think, you know, all of us wrote the series off 10 years ago because when you hear it's 30,
Hey,
$25,000, hold on.
not all
Anybody
of us.
trying to work their way up the ladder system wrote that series off because unless you had a rich uncle or a brother like Adam who could sell, you know, ketchup to a ketchup, what were we talking? Ketchup popsicles to an Eskimo. We could not make that work, and I think that's the biggest thing you're going to see is a push for cost reduction, whatever that may be, and we're seeing it now with this new engine package Tony was talking about. You know, down from 50, 60 grand, you're going to be able to buy a crate for 25, 30 out the door. That's going to last you multiple seasons. Well, that's a major cost reduction. You know how we get this series down? You get it down where a kid can put up $10,000 to show up to a race with his helmet and get a good crew and race and have a spotter like Joe, then we're going to have something we can work with here. And we're closing in.
There's only one of me, baby. There's only one of me. I'm just kidding.
I think racing isn't a good.
I fully agree with you on that front, and when you look at the thing that scares me is with how you're saying it is every time a new rule comes out, it costs money. So the way that they're going to get a bunch of people to jump onto this motor package is it has to be a better package than the existing package, or it has to be an equal jump. And the guys have to be willing to invest into it. So it doesn't matter if it's a better package, everybody has to do it. And it's going to cost everybody money that's invested now. Now, does it save money long-term for new entities? Yes, it does, but it costs money up front. And the scary part to me is that you do too many of those compounding changes as opposed to fixing the ladder system and having it so that you can justify more money to get up to that next level, or carrying more parts and pieces, just like, you know, Tony Novotny did with the CASCAR series back in the day. When he had the East and West series, they could join the Super Series at a low cost. There was a tremendous amount of value to that versus changing the rules for, you know, to cut the cost. And you know, I think that it's going to take a healthy balance. Do I love the motor program? Yes, I do. I'm a firm believer. I love everything about it. Firm believer that the equalizer program, the seal program that a super late model was on, was the best package that you could possibly think of. You know, you look at them in super late models across the Southeast, even up here, they're awesome. But if everybody has to now go spend $25,000 times 4 cars, times 5 cars, now that becomes a problem, and then it hurts it in the short term.
Well, what will help, Joe, is if you're going to spend that $25,000 on an engine and you're buying reliability. The reason these spec programs and crate programs worked is because you weren't investing in a grenade, right? You were buying something that should. There's exceptions to everything, but that should last. So I think there's pretty smart people in the right places right now.
Oh, the other point to this, though, is that not everybody in the series has to go and drop and go to this new motor. If I'm understanding, this is an option, right? Like you don't have
to. As a racer, though, if it's a better option, you have to go to it. So
yeah, I'm just saying. It's like I agree with your
crate engine program. Yeah, it's like when the crate engine program came into late model racing in Ontario. A cast iron, you know, a 355 Chev or a 351 Windsor, great big heavy motor, right? And they had an aluminum intake on them, and some of them had aluminum heads. But when they went to the 604 crate, they realized that they could get just about the same amount of horsepower. They were giving them a weight deduction because everybody wanted them to go to a crate, and it was a lighter engine. Well, instantly, everybody with a crate was standing in victory lane. So
Yeah.
as soon as everybody's standing in victory lane with a crate, what do you need? You need a crate. Now, do they absolutely need that? No, they don't. But the racer mentality, and the racers eat themselves, but that's the way that it works. And then it becomes a chicken or the egg scenario, right? It's
Well, one thing we
how
know,
can you make it that it's attractive? Racers eat
that
themselves.
driver that ran out and bought a crate motor because JR won with a crate motor probably should have been working on making his car turn better left than trying to make his engine run better, because it's almost always the problem. Joe, we got to run, man. Thanks for being with us. Anything you want to add or throw in, or where we can catch up with you before we drop you here?
Hey, yeah, tune in on Sundays. We're back just like you guys on the other side of the break. We're back on the 8th here, so with Race Time Radio, and thanks very much for having us. And looking forward. If I don't see you between now and then, Adam, you're looking good. Keep knocking the weight down, and let's rock and roll. I'm staying right there with you, bud. It's falling off of me too.
Good
job,
for you,
boys.
man. Good to chat with you, Joe. It's always good to talk.
See what's.
Yeah. Well, we're not in an airport terminal waiting to catch our plane that's been delayed 17 times. Good to talk to Joe. Adam, we had a great discussion. I got a few things to get off my chest, though, if you can, just answering to a few things. Derek asks, what will the Action Sprint Tour schedule look like for all 3 series? You're going to have about 9 races on each side by the looks of it, east-west. We've taken what looks like your best 6 or so races into that to decide your east-west champions. And then we'll take a series of your best races and put them to the national events for the national events. So we'll have an east-west and a national champion, 5,000 point fund for each east-west, and 25,000 for the national tour. So that's going on. Somebody also, while we're on crate sprints, we had our crate tech crew talk last week. We're putting together a few more answers, and we should have a final set of clarified rules for the Action Sprint Tour for 2023, and we're going to lock those down for 1 calendar year. Along those lines, Adam, also another question that came in today was the ODCC rules for mini stocks and street stocks here in Ontario. The promoters got together last Thursday, also had a talk about clarifying a few of those rules, and the mini stock, street stock rules should be out and straightened up in about a week or two's time. So we should have full rules for all those. 360 rules are the same, so that'll take care of all the dirt rules in our world. Want to mention, I don't think we got too much into it. We'll talk more next week about the Eldora $1 million sprint car race that's coming up and the cost to do that. So much to talk about. We didn't get into football today. Want to send a shout out to the families of Bill Zardo and Harry Nicholson, and we also lost Ken Block yesterday too, which was another talented driver and probably one of the most talented to never actually race a roundy round cars, I don't think. But man, that guy was a magician when it came to cars. Anything else we got to add here before we pass on for the week?
No, and I don't want people to think that we give so much respect. I mean, Bill Zardo, Canadian Motorsports Hall of Fame, that's a tragic loss. He lived right up to the end. Harry Nicholson might not be as familiar a name, but in the Flamborough Speedway circles, hobby car racing, did some great things. It just seems like we're a little bit surrounded in it right now. And we don't want to seem disrespectful that we're not giving all of these people the credit that they deserve. We're going to talk about them in coming weeks. We're going to talk to family members. We're going to have those conversations. We didn't want it to look like a grocery list of let's send our condolences to this and this and this, because the hits just keep on coming. So we will keep them in our thoughts, and we'll keep having conversations as the off season goes along.
I guess that's about it. It's good to be back. It's good to be back in 2023. Hopefully everybody's feeling good, getting ready to rock. Did you get back on the scales yet? How many hot dogs do I got to put?
It's not good. It's not
So
good.
you
Vacation was not
now?
good to me.
All right.
Fell off the wagon hard. But we've committed to running the Round the Bay 5-kilometer road race, Dave Hunsinger and I. So we've got that to work towards. No, I'm still in a good spot. Still better than where we started. Gary calling. I keep meaning to call you or text you or wish you a Happy New Year. So I'll do it right now. Happy New Year, buddy. And
I was gonna say, what do you need? You need a fence built or kitchen demolished.
No,
That's really
nothing. Like
nice.
once in a while, like once out of every 10 messages, I like to talk to Gary without needing anything. Because the other 9 times out of 10, it's he better show up with tools.
That used to be like that with my mom. I don't want anything. I'm just calling to say hi.
Yeah.
Good deal. We got some leftover topics we'll jump into next week. We appreciate everybody hanging out. Spencer, thank you for everything you do, as always. On the G-Force side, we're getting ready for another great season. Going to look a lot like last year, bringing you all the same coverage again and more. Excited to be there. So thanks for being there. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Cheers. See y'all next week.